Well, of course, it's that time of the month, the first Tuesday in every month, when we bring you ASEAN Affairs publication, ASEAN Affairs, and of course the ASEAN Roundup. Founder and CEO of the group, of course, is Mr. S. Roy. The month seems to go quickly.
Oh yes, it was just like yesterday.
Indeed. So welcome to the river. Lovely
you.
place to be.
Beautiful.
What's the story this month?
Well, the story this month is Asean Aviation, in fact, aviation as a whole, which is under the threat of the rising fuel prices. And we're going to talk about how in ASEAN, aviation is one of its biggest industry and how it is dealing with the impact of the surge in fuel prices.
So basically when we talk about that, I mean, all of the airlines worldwide actually have fuel problems in terms of the fuel costs. What have they risen by, actually, if we look at the fuel costs versus last year?
The average fuel cost in terms of their operating cost of an airline used to be 30% last year. It's gone beyond 40, even to some airlines 49%. It is definitely an untenable situation for any airline where 50% almost of their cost goes to fuel alone.
Well, it's interesting because talking to Thai Airways the other day, one of the things that they said was that the route, one of the reasons they cancelled the New York route, and the main reason is because their fuel price should be around 35%.
That's right.
Per routing.
That's right.
It actually went up to 55%.
That's right.
And still rising. So how can you afford to actually, you know, send an aircraft over with that high fuel cost?
That's right. So worldwide, as you said, you know, the brunt of the fuel impact is being felt by the airlines in the U.S. and Europe. ASEAN or Asian airlines are still expected to fly through this turbulence, mainly because of the growing economies. And so the expectation is that ASEAN airlines may do not that badly as compared to the airlines in Europe. For example, Delta Airlines in the U.S. laid off around 950 pilots yesterday. So it's not that drastic a case for the major airlines, namely Singapore Airlines, Malaysian Airlines, and say Thai Airways in ASEAN.
So they're the three big ones in ASEAN.
The three big ones. And the three big ones, what each of them are doing is, for example, Singapore Airlines plans to raise its fuel surcharge for the tickets issued from June 24th onwards. That's what Singapore Airlines, which is, by the way, the world's second biggest airline in terms of market value. Followed by Malaysian Airlines, the national flag carrier of Malaysia, is also following its competitors. It is planning to raise the fuel surcharge on a route-by-route basis. Thai Airways, the third major airline in ASEAN, is looking 360 degrees to cut costs. Its fleet acquisition plans of 65 aircraft it wanted to acquire is now under threat, and it may even downsize its fleet. So these are the stark realities.
And they're putting up their fuel surcharges too.
Yes.
But they've got no choice because, I mean, how the airlines are not in business to lose money.
That's right.
So when they charge these extra fuel surcharges, it's not that the airline is making money, it's that they're covering their costs.
Sure. I also have comments on aviation in ASEAN. But before that, I think you were mentioning to me about some international airlines.
Yeah, I mean, the international airlines, I mean, most of these are raising their fuel surcharges. But you've got airlines like the British Airways and the Qantases, the international carriers, that are actually adding the cost of baggage, which we're seeing in the States too.
That's right.
That they're saying, well, okay, if you take more than this amount, you'll pay excess baggage. But if you take an extra bag, you know, then you'll be charged quite a high fee.
That's right.
But, you know, there's also the carbon, you know, copies that we also
Carbon
have
trading.
to look at carbon trading as well. So there's a whole lot of areas that I think people are having to look at. But it's interesting that basically the three major carriers in ASEAN are all pretty much doing the same, which is charging the fuel surcharges on.
Plus looking at cutting costs. But on the other hand, you know, I mean, for example, the issue, I will quote AirAsia's chief operating officer, who spoke recently in Singapore, on the issue that how the aviation sector, he said, in ASEAN is traditionally very anti-ASEAN. What he means is, it's very nationalistic, it's very protectionist, it's very insular, and it's closed. So Azran Osman Rani, who is the top executive of AirAsia, spoke at the ASEAN Leadership Forum in Singapore last week, which we covered as ASEAN Affairs. So ASEAN, as coming back to ASEAN, which is supposed to be a single trading bloc, there are some sectors which are very protectionist and insular. There's nothing ASEAN about it. They're all very national. Aviation is one sector, such sector. ASEAN is supposed to be working on that and working on a multilateral agreement to free up access to the 10 capital cities of Southeast Asia so that thereby creating an open skies and a single aviation market in ASEAN.
Possible?
That is what is the goal. That is what airlines are asking for. That is
what is the timing of that, if it was considered?
As usual, it took them 40 years to make a charter. I don't think it will be that long. But now that they have trained the sides on these major issues, and ASEAN itself is moving ahead as a single entity once the charter is here, you can expect aviation to be a single open skies market in ASEAN if they can get that right. And within the countries, for example, in Malaysia, Tony Fernandez, for example, the national flag carrier Malaysia Airlines is now offering low budget tickets, which is like entering into the territory of AirAsia. So AirAsia has been saying that we should be having a fair playing field in that country, for example. And if Malaysian Airlines can come into their turf, they should be also allowed to go into Malaysian Airlines turf.
Interesting. That's going to be a hard one.
That's going to be a hard one. That's going to be a hard one. So these are the various stories that you have on the airline industry. In Garuda, for example, in Indonesia, they have restructured. Most of the national airlines are today facing, has been going through a restructuring process. Especially now is the crunch time where they all have to look at the future of air travel.
Talking about future, did any of these airlines, the Malaysian Airlines, Thai Airways, Singapore Airlines, did any of them buy futures in terms of, buying their, hedging their fuel costs up front?
Some of them have done. Some of them, for example, again back to AirAsia, Tony Fernandez, they said they have hedged the fuel purchases till June of this year. But for the rest of the year, they have not.
It's open, isn't it?
It's open. So it says they are expecting that the oil price will stabilize.
Are our airlines in ASEAN going to survive?
I think that the bigger airlines will, by cost cutting and trying to work out innovative methods, may survive. The smaller airlines may definitely close shop.
Low-cost carriers?
Some of them may survive, but like the bigger ones like AirAsia. But if the smaller ones, if they don't have that much of, say, passengers in the system, may not.
Well, it's going to be quite a few months, isn't it, before we find out the answers, but I think we're going to see a lot of changes.
Tighten your seatbelts, turbulence ahead.
Yeah, exactly.
For the airline industry.
Certainly. So it impacts on the whole world, but it's all how people handle it. It always amazes me, though, given these factors, that these airlines are still coming out and offering very special prices.
That's right. So you can imagine the competition.
Must be some logic there.
The logic is survival, I guess.
Indeed, indeed. Recently you're in Indonesia. What did you do in Indonesia?
Yeah, in Indonesia I was there, and in my last show we had showed you some of my pictures and features from the trip. This time there is a Thai fashion show which has been organized by the Thai embassy in Jakarta. And this is a cross-cultural, which we should see more and more between the ASEAN countries, where the culture of one country is presented in another. So here in the video that we will show you now, you can see Indonesian models walking on the ramp in Thai silk and Thai fashion.
Let's enjoy.
So that's the end of this edition of ASEAN Roundup. We will see you again same time next month.
Obviously you're liking the ASEAN update, so let's have the emails from you asking various questions, and then Mr. Roy will try to cover those for you. Thank you again.
Thank you very much again.
Bye-bye. We'll now go to Arglit, and we're going to give you property update with Raymond Lamb. Stay tuned.